Hello, and welcome to Lesson 2 in our Google My Business section, how to audit your Google My Business competition so that you can make a plan to get on top of them and stay there. So let's dive right in. We're going to cover several things in this section. Firstly, understanding the general goals. Secondly, identifying your main location. Thirdly, identifying your main keywords. Fourthly, based on your location and keywords, identifying your main competitors. And then finally, based on your competitors, identifying your specific goals for your Google My Business listing. Now, obviously, your main goal is to make money, but to do that specifically with a Google My Business listing, you're going to want to get into the local pack. So here's an example of a local pack. But what you want to do beyond just getting into that, you want to become the obvious choice to click. Now, in this particular case, I think there's not really an obvious choice to click. Most of the listings have similar ratings. They have a similar number of ratings. To just a random customer searching for a roofer, they look pretty similar. However, what many studies have found is that the listing that tends to get clicked most often is the number one listing, the one that's ranking first above the other ones. So ideally, you want to be the number one listing, and you also want to just be the obvious one to click based on your rating and the number of reviews that you have. So we're going to start by identifying your main location, which may sound more obvious than it is, but for our purposes, we are looking specifically for the most important zip code in the area that you serve. Why zip code? It's because local pack rankings vary significantly from zip code to zip code, and even within zip codes. So you don't have time to search through all the zip codes. We just want to make a really sort of fast but accurate pulse check on your listing. So we're going to pick the zip code that's most important to you. Now, that's likely going to be whichever zip code covers the main city or town that you serve. If there are more than one zip code in that main city, then pick maybe the one that you care about most. Maybe there's one that a lot of good clients come from, or it's maybe a higher scale neighborhood with better paying jobs. Pick what makes the most sense to you. Once you've got your location selected, you're going to try to find 3 main keywords. So you're going to go to your dashboard of your Google My Business listing. So you can go to business.google.com/locations. And if you have more than one location, you'll select the main one, the one nearest to your location that you're going to be auditing that we just selected. So if you're going to audit, say, the zip code 22630, then you would select your location in 22630 or as near to it as you can. Now, once you're within that particular location, you're going to select Insights over here on the left side. And then you're going to scroll down to a section called Queries Used to Find Your Business. Once in there, you're going to select one quarter if you can. If your listing has been live for 3 months, then you should be able to select one quarter. And that will just give you more accurate information. So then you're going to write down the top 3 keywords that aren't your brand name. So usually one of your top or several of your top keywords are going to be variations on the name of your business. But obviously you're going to rank well for those. We don't really care about those so much. What we want are the keywords that people search who don't necessarily know about you already. So roofing contractors, roofers near me, roofing companies in this case. With that done, we have our location, we have our keywords. We now have to find the competitors based on that information. And the easiest way to do this is through this online tool, which is completely free. And you can find it at this URL, technicalseo.com/tools/local-search. There are a variety of ways to get this information, but this is the easiest site that I've found to do this. Now, when you get to that URL, it's going to give you a number of options. You're going to want to select United States, presumably that you serve a region within the United States. And then put in a zip code. Now, the example I picked is 18504, which is a zip code in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And we're going to be using that throughout this video as just the example zip code. And we're going to enter in our first keyword, which is roofing contractors. And then we're going to click open over here. Now, what that's going to do is open this search in your web browser, but as a new tab. And you'll repeat this for the other keywords. And you should end up with 3 open tabs of search results. All of them, the search is done as in that location. And 1 for each of the keywords. So here's an example for 18504. Now we're interested only in the local pack in each of these searches. This tool will give you organic searches as well, which is interesting, but for the purposes of this video, we're only interested in the local pack. Now, so we search roofing contractors, roofers near me, and roofing company. Okay, once you've got those 3 tabs, we're going to try to find your specific goals for your Google My Business listing. And to do that, there are 5 questions you're going to ask, and I'm going to go over each of them in turn with examples. So question number 1, do any of the listings have a 4.5 rating or higher? If they do, you're going to want your listing to have a 4.5 rating or higher as well. And this is partially because it helps you to rank better compared to them, but also because you want to be the obvious choice. If someone sees that one of your competitors has a 4.5 rating and you have a 4.0 rating, they're more likely to click your competitor, and we don't want that. If none of the listings have a 4.5 rating or higher, a 4.0 or higher is acceptable. But you never want to go below a 4.0. So let's return to our example. We look over these listings and we can see there are a lot that have a rating above 4.5. There are a lot of 5.0s, there's a 4.7. So we want to have at least a 4.5 rating for our listing. Now, to find your specific goals, question number 2, what is the largest number of reviews that any listing has? And you want half again as many more. And that's more of a rule of thumb than a hard and fast rule. But again, you want to be the obvious choice both for users and for Google. Now, it may happen that no one has reviews if you're in a particularly low competition area, in which case just 5 or 10 should be all you need. That should be enough to clearly differentiate you from the competition. Once again, our example, this is the company that has the largest number of reviews, and they have 14. So we'll want at least 21. Again, that's a rule of thumb. It's not a magic number, but it's a good rule of thumb, and it should definitely be enough to differentiate you from the rest of the competition. Moving on to question number 3. Do any of the listings have one of the keywords in the business title? So, for example, if there was a company that was Scranton Roofing Contractors, they would tend to rank well for the keyword roofing contractors. If there aren't any, then it's not as crucial for you to do it yourself. If there are some, then you should definitely consider adding that keyword into your business title. In our case, there aren't any that have an exact match keyword. There are plenty that say roofing. There are some that say contractors, but there aren't any that say roofing contractors within the title. And as you can see, this section here is the title. So 5-Star Roofing All-American, that's the title of that business. Greg Slacks Roofing is the title of that business. In this case, none of them have that, so they'll be easier to outrank. Moving on to the 4th question out of our 5. Are any of the listings based outside of the main zip code? And the reason we ask this question is that Google places a heavy emphasis on the closeness of the listing to the searcher. In my opinion, Google places way too much emphasis on that. But if you want to show up, you got to play by Google's rules. So you're going to want to look at the different listings and what zip code they're based in. So to figure that out, you can click on their listing. You can see their address and note the zip code, and then just click the back button in your browser to return to the previous screen. And that way you won't have to search it again through the local search tool that we mentioned before. If none of them are based outside of the zip code that we're searching in, that means there's a lot of very local competition, and Google's going to emphasize the more local competition. So you should consider getting a listing based in that zip code if you can. If you can't, or it's not practical for whatever reason, it's not the end of the world, but it does make a significant difference. Now, if there are listings that are showing up in the local pack but are based outside of the zip code you were searching in, that's maybe a sign that the competition isn't as fierce and you can get away with a listing that's based further away. So let's look at an example. Each of these listings are based inside the main zip code. None of them are outside. That means there are a lot of local companies, and Google's going to tend to emphasize them. And you can kind of see, just looking at the map here, Google does not have to give you a wide angle map to show the three items in the local pack. So if there's a wider map, then maybe the competition is not as fierce. But in this case, there's a lot of local competition, and you'd want to have your business listings address well within the zip code or as close to it as practical. Okay, moving on to question number 5. Are there any ads in the local pack? And this is helpful too. Perhaps you can't move your listing to a closer location, but you still want to rank in an area and it's maybe more difficult. Ads can be a great way to do that. But you also want to check and see, is anybody else advertising in the local pack? If not, then it's not as crucial that you have them. But if so, then you're obviously missing out on potential traffic. And so this is what it'll look like if it's, you'll see this little ad section over on the left. And in our example, there are indeed ads in the local pack. So we should definitely consider running local pack ads ourselves just to keep up with and hopefully to surpass your competition. So that is the fast summary of how to audit your Go My Business listing and its competitors. And armed with that information, you should be able to win your market.